Good. Okay, I'd like to call the October 24th, 2017 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Can we all please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I have no announcements and there are no guests in the audience. So we have a quick agenda. I know our vice chair is running a few minutes late, so he'll probably walk in mid-meeting. But I'm going to go right to item number 1, which is review and discuss energy reduction plan and votes if possible.
Mr. Chairman, the energy reduction plan was presented to the town in the middle of the week last week, and this is part of the process of being a so-called green community. And being a green community is also part of being one of the community compact communities. These programs are nested within each other. The important thing is that this process unlocks grant dollars for the town of Douglas as you begin to pursue the projects that are outlined that are necessary to be a green community. One of those critical objectives is to save at least 20% on the town's energy consumption. And the plan that arrived was a very detailed plan. This is some 80 to 90 pages of analysis that's been done of all the town's buildings, vehicles, and all of the school department's buildings. And they came through and they looked for leaky windows and doors and reviewed our vehicles and all of the roof fixtures, just looking for opportunities for the town to save on its energy consumption, reduce consumption of fuel oils and electricity. It was too late to post this for your last meeting because it arrived the day of your meeting and it wasn't really an emergency. And when I reviewed the plan, there were a number of projects that, while they helped get us to 25% energy reduction, they really were not viable. In the commercial world, you'd never fund a project that had an 80-year payback. You know, that's just silly. So I asked them to revamp the plan and take out some of the weaker projects and then just stick with the really strong projects. It still kept us at the 20% goal, and it's a realistic list of things that we should probably pursue. But most importantly, the Green Communities Initiative funding could be used for the LED conversion of the streetlights in town. And that would also be a huge reduction in our energy usage. It's not actually even part of the 20% analysis. So when the state called to reinforce that point with me because they knew that the plan was languishing, I accepted that as an excellent reason to go forward. The plan is just a plan. If there's anything in here that we won't pursue, we simply won't pursue it. We're not committing to these projects. We are only committing to the goal of trying to reduce our energy use by 20%. That being the case, there is an October 31st deadline for the board and for the school department to say that they accept that goal and will work with the state and with the CMRPC to achieve these projects and that goal. So that being the case, I'm asking for your approval tonight and authorize me as your administrator to sign off on the documents necessary to move this application forward. And as each individual project comes up, it will be coming back before you, either for procurement or for other analysis and approval as is needed, because we just can't change the building without your approval, etc. So that this first item on the agenda tonight is the energy reduction plan that is focused on buildings. The second item, since I have your attention, it's a related and necessary component of this, is the fuel efficient vehicle policy. Many of the town's vehicles are exempt from the initiative. So they're not looking at our heavy fire equipment and our heavy DPW equipment. They just want to know that non-public safety equipment, to the extent we purchase vehicles for the town, we would use vehicles that fall within a fuel-efficient description. And we're not talking about electric cars or anything like that. We're talking about relatively high performers in the fuel efficiency category. Our existing fleet already meets all of the requirements. So basically, what we're asking you to do tonight is to vote for us to continue to do what we're doing when it comes to buying vehicles. So that's what those first two items relate to. And it's a non-trivial sum of money. In year one, the grant available to the town would be $150,000, which is, if I understand from our conversations with FinCom, grant money is one of our objectives. Try to be able to better the town with something other than raising funds from taxpayers. It can be used for the street lighting, can be used for lighting in the buildings.
Right.
It can be used for the heat and the venting and the air conditioning.
Plenty of places that would
Yes, sir.
soak it up.
I'm assuming it can only be used for energy reduction costs.
That's right.
Purposes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know the chair from the school committee, are you waiting for Kevin?
I'm waiting for Kevin, yeah.
Okay.
I'm early, right?
No, actually, the meeting was scheduled from 6:30 as opposed to a 7 o'clock. We bumped it a little early because it was outside of our usual rotation.
Oh, okay. He's gonna be here in like 5 minutes.
That's fine.
Is that okay? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't realize. I thought the 6:30 was the executive session.
No.
That you have beforehand. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, no need to apologize at all.
Watch us kill 5 minutes right now.
Yeah, we can.
I know you guys are good at that.
If there's any board or elected officials that can kill time, it's definitely us.
Because it's always item number 3.
Yeah, why don't we, while we're waiting for Kevin, because I don't anticipate a lot of discussion around item 3, which was the review and discuss EMS, electronic patient care reporting software contract, and then take a vote on it.
Right. So as the board will recall, I sent you an update some couple weeks ago that we had received a rather unexpected termination notice from our electronic patient care reporting software vendor. They had a security breach with their data warehouse provider and dropped them. The problem is that provider was the only provider giving the backup necessary for many small towns, not just Douglas, that was part of the Zoll reporting group. That being the case, we had to hurry up. We had 60 days to find somebody else to do this for us, and it could take up to 30 days just to convert all of our existing data, so there's really a time crunch. We went to FinCom and asked for a reserve fund appropriation. It's really the only way we could move this along as quickly as possible, and we conducted a standard procurement, even though 30B wouldn't strictly apply because it's under the threshold. We did get 3 quotes, and we compared them. There was a memo circulated by Suzanne earlier this week. The actual dollar amounts between the firms was less than $1,000 between the highest and lowest bid, but the lowest bid also had fulfilled all of the basic requirements on the quality side of the equation. And that would be AmbuPro, which is a branded division of OCI software out of Fall River, Massachusetts. AmbuPro is the software used by many of the neighboring towns to Douglas and is compatible with any dispatch system, whether we keep dispatch here or regionalize it, will all play nice. So that being the case, I am asking for your authorization to sign that contract with AmbuPro and start the data conversion process as soon as possible.
I move the approval of the software contract as presented to the board.
Second. Okay, it's made by Al, seconded by Dave. Is there any further discussion on it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. See, I told you we could kill a few minutes. If you guys want to come on up. So, and Mr. Wojcik, the school committee and the superintendent had some questions or concerns regarding the Safe Energy. They emailed me earlier, asked if they'd get the opportunity to come in and talk to it. And
Yeah. So as
Absolutely.
I mentioned to the board, the way this has been peddled to me by the Department of Energy Resources and by CMRPC is that this is just a plan. It can be altered as we go along. The town and the school department would not be committing to any given project in the book. The goal is to save up to 20% of our energy costs, which is a laudable goal for anybody to try to follow. And we certainly wouldn't be trying to do anything without prior approval from the school committee and the administration on, the scheduling and the way the buildings are managed and all the rest of it. A great deal of the biggest savings are going to be in the town buildings anyway and our streetlights. But there is this punch box on every ticket that comes through the grant process that says, did the Board of Selectmen approve it? Did the school authorities approve this? Because they can't move our grant applications forward without those approvals. It's not on us, any of us, that they only sent this to us. Mine is date stamped October 17th, but we weren't accepting this original draft. It really was closer to the end of last week before they presented anything that we thought we could present to the board, not be embarrassed. So that's kind of where we are. But they need the approval
And
by
there-
Halloween.
Therein lies our issue, is that our next school committee meeting isn't until the 1st. We have reached out to the other school committee members to see if they would be able, if we could get a quorum for Monday to discuss this, but that was one issue, and then it's a timing issue, and then when we looked at the packet today, my eyes went wide because it looked like, even though we were told that there were grants, I didn't know if those grants were guaranteed. There was an actual dollar amount showing what the schools would be responsible for, and that obviously would be a concern because we, as we all know, we don't have that just kind of sitting in the war chest somewhere.
There's a ledger here that indicates the Douglas Public School District net cost would be $129, and that would be for the high school, $129,000, and then it goes on, and I didn't know whether we came into a windfall or not, but $102,000 for another school, and obviously, I added it up, it was $487,000, and I just thought to myself, gee, that would be a tough thing for us to come up with at this point in time.
Yeah.
So
So Bill Cundiff's in the planning board meeting, and he had sent an email that made it very clear that it's grant eligibility on a rolling basis. Year one's $150,000, but we'd be eligible for up to $200,000 worth of grants going forward.
Right.
I certainly wouldn't recommend on the town side doing any project without grant support.
Right.
We have no free money,
Right.
as Gene would hate to hear me say, available for any of these projects
Right.
whatsoever.
Right.
But if going through the process of saying, yeah, that's a plan we'd love to do if we could get the grant money, if that's what's necessary to get the grant money in the first place, then that's what we should probably try to do.
I did call the DOER today to get some clarification, and stated similar to what you're saying, is that it's all grant-based and so forth, and that it can be adjusted. But if we're in, we're in. And so that was the other contingency. So we had two problems, which was that, one, we weren't really clear on what we were getting ourselves into, and if there was in fact going to be any kind of a financial impact to the schools. We're all for energy conservation. We want to do whatever we can to help the town save some money as well. And as you know, the schools have done a number of renovations to bring about some energy savings within the buildings. So we're all for that. Then the issue was that the first draft that I got, like you said, was on the 16th, or 17th, I think it was. Our school committee meeting was the 18th, so there was no way to get it on the agenda, nor was there time to even look at it. Sherry's only had a few hours, even an hour this morning, to really kind of look at it. So then we run into the situation where the DOER said that I could sign it on behalf of the school department, but I'm not comfortable with that idea because really they need to review and be in agreement. So the problem we ran into was that, as you had mentioned in your email, is that if we meet on November 1, well, then you're waiting another year for that to go through. So it's a timing issue more than anything else as well.
Yeah.
So, but we don't have a meeting scheduled until Wednesday, November 1st. And the
Why
only
don't you
way
have a
that,
special meeting, because $150,000 is at stake for the
right, so
town.
the only thing we could do, but we have to have a quorum.
We're looking for a quorum, and, we're based on everybody else's schedules. I mean,
Somebody should be willing to come forth to get the town $150,000 so that it cut to the chase.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but when, again,
She only has so much control.
you know, I have one school committee member other than myself who's already said he can make it.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are 3 other people on the committee, and I don't know what their schedules are like. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. There's just no
Okay,
guarantee.
do they realize that there's, that much money at stake for the town?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
You know, Mr. Means sent a detailed email this afternoon after he and I met this morning.
Right.
And we relayed the information. But there's only so much we can do.
Well, hopefully they'll have enough responsibility and feel somebody will come forth and say, yeah, it's a lot of money, I'll come,
Well, the other concern was being able to explain this
Right.
to them. So I've looked through it, but there's a lot of numbers and there's a lot of graphs and charts with numbers, and I just don't know that I would have, the knowledge base to be able to articulate this
Yeah.
as
And I think
accurately as possible. I don't want them to vote on something that I maybe didn't give them enough information on.
Right, and I think the key point here is that not to torture the patient. Because the document itself, they went through all of their analysis of all of our
Right, I
buildings.
saw that, yeah.
And they started to build to a number.
Right,
And there are whole pieces of this that never have to be done, and you still hit the number.
right.
Nor is there going to be any policing mechanism that's going to hold the town under their thumb and says, well, we're never gonna write you another grant because you didn't do this specific, but that's just not gonna happen. That's been the representation all along, is that the goal is to put the town on a path to achieve 20% savings. And it's understood this won't be done in 1 year or 2 years. It could be as long as a 6, 7, 8 year long process. If you even do these projects, you can identify other more cost-effective projects and add them to the plan and get approval for them, and they can be grant funded. So I'm cautious about getting into the weeds of this document. They did a lot of hard work. There's credibility to some of their suggestions here. They've drawn attention to things that I hadn't thought of, such as the passive ventilation system in this building, where we heat the outside because there's all duct work that chimneys out to the, and at one point that kept the air in the building clean and circulating. Now it just means we're blowing
Oh, you're out.
therms out the top of them. So that's really kind of what I would emphasize to your committee, is that this is not a recipe that has to be followed like angel food cake or you're going to get a disaster. This is something we can
So
play
the-
with.
These are their recommendations of projects that could be done that would elicit savings.
Right.
Who determines when, where, how, who's overseeing in other words, we're gonna do Plan A in 2019, who's making that, is that your board, or is it both boards? In other words,
I would suggest it's both boards working together on the recommendations of you and I and the school committee, talking about what we're trying to do here is save operational costs. So off of our expense lines and off of our fuel expenditure lines. So we're gonna look for the low-hanging fruit, the things that save the most with the least outlay,
Right.
to try to pile up the grant money and pay for all those things and get ahead of the game. But it's all gonna come back to the school committee for approval, whether or not they wanna go forward with any of these projects.
You're still in total control of your building, so before there's a contract to do any work, you would have to be involved in that.
So technically, and maybe this is a question for you, technically, our school buildings are town buildings, they're municipal buildings, correct?
Sure.
So if we're looking for a loophole in the event that we cannot get our committee together on Monday, ultimately, can the town make the decision to move forward with the project without the school committee's vote?
I think we'd need sign off from, at minimum, the superintendent.
There is an Appendix A that's a sign-off from the superintendent. But again, this is why we came to you, because I can't get their approval, because we don't have a meeting until the 1st. And so that's why we're kind of in the squeeze, is to, get first of all, get the committee together in advance of Tuesday so that I can sign a document that can come to you can be part of the package. What I think Sherry's concern is that, we're optimistic that everybody will be available, or at least a quorum would be available. We can present it, they can vote yes or no on it, and then we can get that information to you on Tuesday. I think what Sherry's concerned is that if in fact we don't want to hold the town hostage and not be able to go forward. Is there a way to go forward without school committee's approval?
That's our loophole man right there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, a couple general comments. Number one, when you get a document like this, it's aspirational in nature. It's not a binding legal contract that makes you do X, Y, or Z. And, I certainly understand the position of the school committee wanting to protect its jurisdiction. And I would not think that the approval of an aspirational document such as this in any way undercuts the authority that the school committee enjoys under state law. This is a codified wish list. And it's a codified wish list that, when presented to the state, makes money available to execute on some of the wishes. So there's that. And I say that because I know you as chairman need to satisfy the concerns of members who will not, even on the best of circumstances, have a lot of time to go through this. Correct. But I think you can do that safely. The second question is, can the town, by town I mean municipal side, go forward on this without the participation of the school department? And as the administrator has presented it, it's my understanding that that would not be the case, that it's the regulatory agency that slipped in that form where they want your signature. Correct. So what do we do if you say between yourself and other members willing to attend? Really, at that point, you just need to get one more person,
Right.
and it's a go. So if it proved impossible to get the one more person, where are we on Halloween other than in our costumes trying to grab candy from children? Maybe not the best image, huh? Certainly something that you could try would be to have you, the superintendent, execute it, and then make a notation, just STR, subject to ratification, initials right after your signature, so that then at the earliest possible school committee meeting, you could have that ratifying vote. So at least that way the technical requirements of the state have been satisfied, it's in time. I think you could do that. And that way, if the members felt that this wasn't an appropriate set of aspirations for the committee, then you could just decide not to ratify it. That being said, so you could do that. But that is, I would say, a fallback plan. Getting that one more person, I think, would be very, very important. But there is an option, but it's a second best option to getting one more person at your meeting.
Okay.
How about the third possibility of getting the people, at least orally, to get the superintendent comfortable with that?
Well,
Or
that's
if-
deliberating outside, that's deliberating
That's why I
outside of
couldn't reach out
open
to them
meeting.
today.
All right, how about possibility of saying instead of subject to approval, subject to revocation? So then he would be protected if the school committee decided to take action to,
Well, the beauty of putting the little initials STR
Yeah.
in there, the
Yeah,
R
pick
can
it
mean,
up. And by that time,
mean
you'd have
whatever
the-
you want.
By the time you'd have the vote already in there before they look at it.
Yeah.
So I did talk to as I said, to the DOER, and they said that absolutely my signature has to be on it as well in order for it to go forward.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when town meeting moved with the Green Communities Act, they basically said you will sign a plan that says that you're going to reduce by 20%.
I recall that from last year.
Yeah, I do as well.
Right, so,
I recall the fuel-efficient vehicle portion of that green plan as well.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah,
so
so we've
in
already
essence,
approved
that
it.
provides additional comfort or
Yeah,
protection.
with your permission, Chairman,
Because
I
that
think
ship sails.
the big thing here is, and Matt knows this much better than I do, is whether you're gonna get in this funding round at a higher level than you would if you got on the next funding round at a reduced level.
Or having to wait a year, which.
I'd rather not.
No, of course, and certainly that wouldn't be, it's not our intent to hold
So it sounds like
anything
just getting
up.
one more person in
Right.
and you're good to go.
Right, so, and
As
that's
long as
what we're
they-
waiting to hear.
I'll drive them to your meeting if you need me to. I'm happy to do that. I'll round them up and just say, get in the car, we're going.
I'll bring the sub sandwiches,
So that was the reason why we needed to get here tonight, was because of the timing element, and I wasn't comfortable signing the document without the school committee being aware of the document or the obligations that are part of the document. So that's why, when we talked this afternoon, or this morning, the possibility of trying to do an emergency meeting, which has to be posted ASAP as well, so that we can get it up there so that it's posted on time as well, was another issue. And I don't want to post it if we don't have a quorum. You know, if somebody's going, if two people are going on vacation, they're not going to come back from vacation to do this. So I'm optimistic that we'll have a quorum, but at this point, I don't have a definitive.
If you need it, I can find video, and I think it was Senator Stennis who was wheeled into the floor of the United States Senate in a gurney. He feebly raised his hand to vote. It was done.
We just have to get them all in one place.
You could have said John McCain.
Well, you could post anyway. If you don't get a quorum, you don't
Right.
do it, you know.
So that's the conundrum that we have. I can shoot you an email, Kevin, and let you know that we have a quorum, we don't have a quorum, as soon as I hear from the other members. I mean, my guess is that they haven't had a chance to even look at their emails as of right now, so.
Well, if you don't hear anything by like tomorrow or anything, if there's anything that anybody on this board can do to help,
Right.
we're happy to do so. Even if it's
Clubs
enlisting the
always work.
services of the chief to bring him in via ambulance if we have to.
Well, it
I
is
just
not
wanna
our,
make sure I
it is
articulate
not
it.
our intent to hold you up.
No, that's why we
I
came.
hope that-
and wanted to
Oh,
speak
that's
tonight.
it. The whole town.
The whole town, yes.
There are cells downstairs, I think.
There are.
Mr. Chairman, right.
So,
As a suggestion.
yeah, we have resources at our disposal.
Okay. Try to catch me.
Yeah.
But the point is, that the timing of the documentation and everything in our schedule is problematic.
Like I say, they put us in this position. We'll do the best we can with
Right.
what we've been given.
Okay.
Well, I
Yes,
mean,
we'll
at least
wait.
you got options A and B, and we'll gun for A.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you for hearing us.
Thanks
I
for
appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Come in.
Take care.
All right, drive safe on this rainy evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
2 hour delay tomorrow?
Bye.
So-
2 hour delay?
We're excited for tonight.
Chief, are you
I gotta get.
you here for agenda item 3? No?
All right.
We already voted and approved
Yeah.
your software.
You're good to go.
Yeah, we already did it.
Meeting started at 6:30.
Did you-
I probably didn't tell you that.
You got a speech plan? We can give you a hard time about it.
To get quorums?
Yeah. We can grill you about it if you want us to.
Do you need a
Cal
vote from us,
prepared
man?
questions.
Do on
on
1
it.
and 2, I still do.
Yeah.
All right, so we need a vote on one. Can we combine that, or you want 2 separate ones, or?
You
No,
can
I think
combine
you're
that.
okay with combining it.
And we have the plan,
Yes, sir.
that's it?
Yep.
So I move we approve the energy reduction plan and the fuel-efficient vehicle policy as presented to the board this evening.
Second.
Made by Hal, seconded by Dave. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Made by Mike, seconded by Dave and Tim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.